Second?
No.
Second.
Okay, thanks, Jody. All in favor? Any opposed? Jody? I'm sure you're not opposed, are you? I saw you raise your hand when I said that, but no. Okay.
My
Reflex.
Okay.
my internet might be a bit laggy, it seems.
Ah, okay. 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 And I don't think we have any public members here tonight. So we can get right into Daniel. It's going to talk about the business license year-end report.
Thank you, Vaune. I'm just going to share my screen. I have just a short presentation going over kind of the same information that's in the report that we sent to council, but figure out. Okay, do you see my slides okay?
No, can't see anything.
I'm seeing it.
Oh, there it goes. Got it now.
Okay.
Seeing them too.
Okay, great. So what we brought to council is just a year end looking back at the year 2021 and our business license program. So in 2021, we licensed 504 businesses on Bowen, sort of a mix of different businesses. No one category stood out. But I just note there that this compares to 2019, we issued 315 licenses. So the numbers have continued to go up quite dramatically. I don't think it necessarily reflects increased business activity on Bowen as so much as our ability to license businesses and people's awareness of the program. And especially note that beginning in 2021, we've become much more, I think, intentional about collecting business license information from contractors before issuing building permits. So where previously we had required it from the primary builder, but not necessarily other contractors, we're now much more diligent about going through people's contractor lists, in essence, and asking for business license information and tying that to issuance of building permit. So it's led to an increased number of licenses from businesses involved in the building industry. Especially off-island businesses who may only be involved in one or two projects on Bowen. And then the other thing the report touches on that I've got some information here, both from that's in the report, and then I have a bunch more data if the committee's interested in looking at it more closely. But starting as well in 2021, and I apologize that year is wrong. That's supposed to say 2022. We contracted a company called Hearth that does our monitoring of short-term rental. So they actively monitor different hosting agencies and websites, and they provide information. And so they work to identify locations and addresses and hosts of businesses. And then our business license inspector sends them essentially information asking for them to be licensed. So they, on their sort of dashboard, they've identified 127 active listings. This is in January on Bowen, and it sort of gives information on what's the average nightly rate and what's the average occupancy. So 45% occupancy, an average rate of 237 a night. I'll note 127 doesn't necessarily mean 127 properties. The way it does it, it ends up being if you have multiple rooms in a bed and breakfast, they can count those as multiple active listings. And then it's seen that those active listings have increased from 2020 through 2022. But some of that, so this is just, they also list their estimates, I guess, of revenue from short-term rental hosting. So this is not like Bowen Island revenue, but revenue made by the operators. So you see in 2018, 700,000 all the way up to almost $1 million in 2019, but then down sharply, obviously, in 2020 with COVID, and a slight growth again in 2021. So that, in essence, is what I had prepared in the report. I have more slides that I sort of pulled more of the data from our Hamari short-term rental stuff if the committee's interested, but if not, I'm open for just general questions or comments on business licensing on Bowen.
Daniel, are you taking questions?
Yes, please.
Okay, so back on your map, most of the things that they're all blue dots. But what are those three little yellow ones that have the
So-
A numbers beside?
Yeah, so that's how it lists the numbers. And I was trying to actually find a zoomed out view enough that it didn't identify individual listings, and it did show those three. So any of those blue circles, it's a little hard to see, but so example, the one that's sort of just above where it says Snug Cove, that's sort of in the loop, says 28. So if you zoomed in, you would
Yeah.
end up with the red dots or those yellow dots for
Oh,
the
okay.
28 listings that are in that area.
Okay.
So this is just trying to show an overview and show that, you know, there are numbers throughout the island, and it is fairly like scattered in terms of where listings are. They are spread out.
So the yellow one should be blue.
No, the blue is just when it's showing that there's multiple, like essentially it's saying the map is zoomed out enough. They're not showing the dots because they would
okay.
just
It's not in
overlap.
enough detail, so there could be 2 or 3 within that.
Yeah, so
Okay.
they'll have a little number in the blue dot, and that's the number of listings in that area.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so like the Deep Bay one says 28. So if I zoomed in, there'd be 28 listings in that area.
So Daniel, I'm just curious. So then what does, if you have this information, then is the municipality knocking on these people's doors if they don't see a business license, or?
Yes, when we have contact information, we are contacting them, and sort of the initial step is sort of informing people that, oh, you know, it seems like you have an active listing. Did you know you require a business license?
Right.
And then it can progress to enforcement if it doesn't happen. Hamari's quite good too in that they essentially like constantly monitor listings. So they'll monitor for active reviews and the dates of the reviews. And so quite often our business license inspector, people will come back and say, oh, well, it's not active anymore. I'm not taking, I'm not taking guests anymore. I've taken it down. And sometimes that's the case. And sometimes we can look back and say, well, people reviewed staying in your place for last weekend and the weekend before and the weekend before that. And it can be quite useful that way.
And so what is enforcement? Just in enforcing, getting them to get a license, or actually shutting them down?
I mean, generally it would be fines for lack of license. And then, I mean, unless the zoning or something would say that they can't be licensed, which would only apply in a couple of cases. In the most part, it's to seek them to apply.
Right. Okay.
Daniel, the other piece of that is the number of days, though. Is that being tracked or monitored?
Yeah, I mean, Hamari does to some extent. They track the average occupancy. So even that said, over 6 months it was 45% occupancy. And I have some more slides that sort of look at what the occupancy is, and it's a big range of how much people occupy. So in terms of, do people exceed the 120 days? Yeah, I would say that's still a challenge to monitor.
So essentially, there's no way for you guys to monitor that.
There is, in that Hamari tracks, like, to have people booked, are people booked more than 120 days? And so then we could start to essentially follow up with those people and say you're exceeding what you're allowed to do by the zoning, and that you're exceeding what you're licensed to do. Yeah, we started with Hamari, I think in the spring of 2021. We haven't been actively tracking that, and maybe that's something we would do in 2022 with sort of, okay, for the full year.
And so what's the municipality's takeaway from the data you have so far?
I mean, I think a business licensing overall, it's challenging just because we started in 2019. We've been figuring out, is everyone aware of the program? Is everyone licensed? And then on top of that, with sort of COVID uncertainties, it's sort of, it's a challenging thing to say, what's the baseline on Bowen? Because, it's hard to figure out what baseline is. Definitely in terms of like short-term rental, it's like coming back. Even, 2020, it was like people were inactive and not operating. Now it seems to be back.
I think Maureen's got her hand up.
Yeah, I did. And do they, does Harmari report to you at a regular frequency, Daniel, or is it on demand, or how does that work? What's the reporting schedule?
I forget if they update every week or every 2 weeks or months, but it's quite often. And then even between those updates, then they're still working to identify the listings that aren't identified.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I have some more slides. I think even I'll give Stef, sorry, my PowerPoint, and it'll be part of the agenda. And you can go through, there's some more data just at the end for those who are interested of just what Harmari sort of lists on their regular reporting. So some of it looks at how they identified, so they'll note if they identified the address or the host, or what level of identification they provided for the listings.
And Vaughne's question about what were the municipalities' sort of takeaways from this. From council perspective, it came to council, Vaune, but it wasn't discussed at council. It was referred to us for review and for comment. But what I would say is that I find the numbers encouraging. I see the number of off-island contractors who are licensed for doing business on Bowen as a bit of an opportunity. I think it underscores the need for industrially zoned land on island. Some of those contractors might very well need space over here, or might want to relocate their business. And then the final point, and this is mentioned in Daniel's report, is that the revenue from the licensing program is covering the staff costs. And that was a concern when we set it up initially, that there wouldn't be enough revenue to cover the cost of its administration. And it looks as though, according to Daniel, it looks as though it would be revenue neutral again this year. And if there is, and I expect there will be, a significant increase in the number of B&Bs, residential guest accommodation, then there could be additional funds coming in. And the recommendation is that those additional funds come to this committee for business purposes on Bowen. And I think those are all good things. We have a much better sense of sort of some of the patterns of business that we didn't have before. It was all kind of anecdotal. We can see that, one simple thing, B&Bs are all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it is, it's good data. It gives us a better picture of what goes on the island. Sat, did you have something you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I did. I guess just one thing comes to mind, just looking at these numbers, and Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong. So it looks like there's, let's say, 40 or so guest type accommodations that have business licenses on Bowen, and yet there's, whatever, over 100 unique locations. So is there, from council's perspective, or sorry, from municipality's perspective, is there an indication of why that's such a gap? Like, is there anything else that's driving this?
No, I think to some extent either lack of awareness or maybe lack of awareness that they'll be noticed. There is a lag we've noticed in Harmari in terms of they identify the listing, but getting it down to the specific property can take longer. So we sort of find a lag in that they know, okay, it's in Hood Point and it's probably on this street. And then for them to actually get enough information to know it's actually this house where we can send a notice to can take a little bit longer. Yeah, and so I know our business license inspector has a number of sort of active files where they haven't, either they've applied or they've provided some information, or they're somewhere in the enforcement list in terms of they get a nice letter and a threatening letter and they start getting fines, and somewhere in that process. but definitely in terms of, how many we've licensed and how many listings we find, there's a big gap.
Well, I know from personal experience having an Airbnb suite that, that the address is not publicized on those systems, right? Like nobody knows exactly. They can tell where you are, kind of, but not your actual address. And I'm kind of wondering, like, even now, even though I've removed it and everything, I get the odd call every year or two, because somehow Google still tracks it and I still show up on a Google map as, the Airbnb name that I used to have. And it just hasn't existed in 5 years, so, or more. So I'm wondering if some of this too is just people who they have them, but I can't imagine there's 120 something people actively renting right now. I mean, I can't imagine there's that many guests on the island. So they they may not be getting themselves licensed because they may not have guests,
Yeah, and Hamari does track active versus inactive listings. So it does break it down. It does note when people are inactive. And then sometimes we do contact people and they'll say, oh, I'm not actually doing that anymore. And then Tess will check and like follow up. Okay, have you taken down your... And so sometimes they do, they say, I'm not doing it anymore. And they take down the Airbnb page or whatever. They're no longer advertising it.
right?
But I'm saying move them off the
even
list.
if you are on the site, doesn't mean you're getting bookings, right? If the Airbnb software has a calendar, you can see how many nights have been blocked off because you can't book them, right? But I blocked off dates personally that I just didn't want people in there.
Yeah.
I want it for my own use. So that doesn't even tell you that I rented it for those nights. So I think this is probably really difficult to get really accurate. And it still means a lot of legwork for the municipality to kind of talk to these people and say, okay, what are you really operating? Because I don't think this gives us a picture of how many. I don't know. What do you think, Jody, from a tourism perspective? I'd just be curious, right? Like, does this give us any indication of how many guests we're having from that sort of side of it? And I don't think it does. I don't think you can.
Yeah, I mean, one of my thoughts is that this is dated January 10th, 2020. So that was a year ago, in the height of we went into lockdown again.
Sorry, Jody, this is 22. That's just a typo. It's 2022. It's this year.
Oh,
That's
okay.
just my brain not registering the year.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Oh, that makes it better. Okay. Then that would, okay. That's one thing that makes me feel better. The other thing is, as Vaune is saying, people do Airbnb, they might do it for a little bit. It might work for them for a month, like they, and then family comes. It's one of those things where people sign up and they want the flexibility of doing it. And they might do it for a couple of weeks in the summer when they go away themselves somewhere. So I'm with Vaune. I'm not sure how much this captures. Another question I have is, so say I'm one of those people that's only going to use it sporadically, maybe I rent it out, a couple nights here, a couple nights there. Is there a threshold? Is it just if I list on Airbnb, I have to have a business license, or like at what point is renting out a suite occasionally considered a business as opposed to just doing what Airbnb does, and which is allow people to share their space and occasionally.
Yeah, I mean, under our bylaw, renting it out and taking money in exchange for your place is a business activity that would need a license.
So even if it was just
Day
one, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess for me, the licensing problem is it's great. There's revenue, and it's one more thing to enforce isn't very meaningful to me. It's really what the data provides, which I think we all felt that it would help us have a better picture of the economy of the island, right? So that's where I'm just kind of going with this: is how much does this data, how much information does it give us that's meaningful if we're talking about the economy as a whole.
So there's sales tax now for these things. So are we going to get any reports from the province as to how much sales tax they create? I mean, have you heard?
I haven't heard, I haven't inquired.
Something we should inquire through Destination BC if they are going to track data for the
Yeah,
for the sales tax.
yep.
I also think that this is just a snapshot, and data often becomes meaningful as a pattern over time.
Yeah.
So as we get, layer and layer and layer of snapshots, then we'll be able to do some sort of comparison and be able to say something a lot more meaningful than we can say tonight.
The other thing I just want to promote too is that we do, I think we've updated the committee on this before, but on our website there is a search available for businesses on Bowen. So it's quite helpful in terms of driving people to it. If people want to know, they contact the building department and say, I want a plumber, I want an electrician, or do you know somebody? It's very handy to have that search to be able to say, these are the businesses that are licensed on Bowen. You can search for, the contractor that you want and you get a listing of them.
Yes, I've
Yeah.
used that actually. It's very helpful. Mhm. Okay, do we have any more questions or comments for Daniel?
I'll move receipt of the report.
Okay, do we have a second? Sat, thank you. Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor, sorry, all in favor? All opposed? Carried. Okay, is that, and as now Daniel, is that essentially what you're, I'm just not, I want to be 100% clear of what the expectation is that our committee is doing with this report.
Well,
No,
it says
that's great. It's
provided
just for your
in the
information.
agenda.
And just a general questions and commentary. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, take care.
Okay. So we are going to go on to, actually, I'm sorry, Steph, were we going to do the budget first?
Sure, we can go through that.
Okay.
I can share screen. So there's nothing.
There we
can
go.
people see? Okay. Is it large enough?
We could make it a little bit large.
Tick.
Well, trouble is then we can't see the whole thing. Just leave it.
Okay. So nothing unusual. We based this on last year's. So we have strategic activity, the business summit that won't be happening this year. So 0. Speakers and delegation, put aside $500 for that possibility. Engagement events that will mostly be related to the next steps for the plan, which comes up later in the agenda. So nothing in this category or in this section. The arts and culture ad, $600, and that is in play right now, actually. The Buy Local campaign, which is active every year, $2,500, primarily for our partnership with Local BC and the ads in the undercurrent. That's where that money goes. Our BC Economic Development Association membership, $325. Don't see a lot of training and conferences this year, so that's 0. Rural Island Partnership membership and support with $3,000, which was similar to last year. I don't know if Rod has any comments on that number.
I think, hi everyone. Sorry for joining late. I think that it would be probably good value for Bowen Island to not to have that there's a specific ask right now from the Rural Island Partnership, but considering the different initiatives that they're undertaking, but I think maybe keeping that in the budget would be a good idea.
Okay, thank you. The planning session, which again, we'll talk about a little bit later, in January, is gone. But wanted to get you guys in a room together was the idea, and having some food and
So
more
why don't you
fun.
change the date to March or something?
Okay.
So they want to say, well, January's gone, you didn't do it, so take it out of the budget.
Right. Actually, maybe even February, though. Be hopeful. We'll see. And then, yeah, so then similarly, these two different things. Sorry. So these will be our engagement sessions with different sectors. And there's a bit nice, again, a little chunk of money there requested to pay for food and materials. And updating the welcome to new people, welcome neighbors. Is it neighbors, Maureen? That's
Yeah, it's welcome neighbor.
neighbor
Yeah.
guide. So $1,500 to update that publication, and the community profile update comes to $15,000.
I move the recommendation.
Oh, I have a question. Sorry. The guide to the BC Arts and Culture ad, is that through the Van Dop magazine? Do you know offhand?
I think so.
You think so? So they've reached out to the Hearth as well. And I told them that the only way that we would put an ad in is if we had a whole page ad for Bowen Island. So is that what this is?
Yeah, so Jody, do you want to speak to it?
I should grab, yeah, in the past, that's kind of what we did, was we had a whole page. Tourism Bowen Island was in there. I think the municipality, Catching Stars. If you want, I can grab, I've got a guide right across from me. I can grab it just to confirm who was in the last one if you want.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
I'm just wondering that, you know, the municipality's paying the $600 for businesses to be part of that ad. Is that what that is?
No, it's just advertising Bowen Island as a destination for arts and culture. It's our piece.
Oh, so it's a BIM piece. It's not
It's a BIM piece.
It's a tourist, not the tourism either.
And
Jody,
then
you'll be
tourism
putting.
does one as well.
Okay, so this is your share of that page. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. I didn't know.
Yeah,
Good.
I remember the discussion a couple of years ago when we first did this. And I remember Jackie bringing it forward, and, you know, we agreed that it was sort of promoting the whole island, so we would put it through this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks.
I do have a quick question about the welcome neighbor guide.
Okay.
Is that the newcomer's guide?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. And
Okay.
it's been on my desk, but the copy has been done for quite a while. The copy was revised by Heather Pretty, and essentially all that's needed now is just a check on the currency of some of the links. The community profile update is makes sense to do later in the year after all of the census data has rolled out. And that's not going to be complete until I think October or November. So it's possible that we will not get to that.
Okay.
I think we're going to get some census data on the 9th, if I was reading correctly.
Yeah, we're getting population totals
Yeah.
on Wednesday.
So
Okay.
this line 21, the implementation events, that it would include Scribe, EG, Heather, for those focus sessions.
Yeah.
Have we gone over, I'm sorry, I can't remember, I may have missed a meeting. Have we gone over sort of the thinking around the structure of what we're doing to move forward with the
No.
CEDC plan?
That's
next
what's
item.
next on the agenda. So that's what we really want to spend the bulk of the time on and get people's ideas. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks,
Well,
Bob.
we'll come back that that amount there on the engagement events does include, we'll talk about that in the next bit here.
So do you want to defer voting on this until after we've had how we deal with the economic development plan discussion?
Maybe we should, just in case we do want it, we want to change it at all. Yeah. Okay. So we will defer that. So Steph, you're going to put up, you were going to put up your notes around how the working committee had sort of come up with a potential way to go forward that will involve all of the committee to do lots of work. Well, it will engage various members of the committee. Let's put it that way. But of course, we want to have everybody's input on this. We basically, the working committee sort of threw around some ideas about how to go forward, whether we get a facilitated workshop together with our group, whether, what we should do, hire somebody else, et cetera, et cetera. And we really felt that there's enough knowledge amongst the committee members to be able to go through the report and do some pretty heavy editing if needed. But basically, if we looked at the report in the sectors and chunked it out and sort of, had certain people take on those certain sections more specifically and come to a general meeting with everybody to workshop the report, then we could basically, right away, like take out things that we know we don't want to do, that we don't need to do, that we don't think we should do, and really hone it down, because that's the whole point. Like right now we just have, I think everybody agrees, we have this huge document with lots of possibilities and a big wish list or grocery list, I guess. And what we really want to do is hone it down into something that we are going to actually work on and figure out how we're going to do that. So we hope to come out of that workshop with 1-pagers on each of the topic areas. And then and actually have some kind of implementation strategy that we can then say to council, this is what we want to do and how we want to do it.
And we're
So,
going to have meetings with the sector sessions.
sorry,
The idea was to, we
Right.
didn't really
forgot that
go
part.
meet with each of the sectors.
That's
and-
right.
and
So,
Yeah, sorry, and the 1-pagers would be coming out of the sector
yes,
sessions,
sorry.
not
Okay, I blanked on that part.
Sorry.
Yeah.
there's-
Okay. So aside from some of the different committee members, sort of taking the first sort of stab at the different sections, saying, okay, what should we? And Maureen, anybody else who was at that meeting, please correct me if I'm wrong here, because that was a little time ago now that we did that.
Can I jump in?
Yes.
So I think what we were excited about getting everyone in the room together with some food, maybe a half day, like maybe we were over brunch, maybe 3 or 4 hours, and we would go through the existing plan and section by section. And we had the idea, this is for just our first section here, the workshop. And then we would have maybe one person from in each member of the committee to lead a section, just to lead discussion on a section. For example, Jamie would lead arts and culture, Jody would lead tourism, etc., or SAT or whoever. And we'd come out of that with things crossed off that are impossible, just a feasibility review. And then we go to our next stage, which is smaller group sessions with each sector by the sections of the plan. And the deliverables of those sessions are 1-pagers. We take all those 1-pagers, we get this group back together in a room, and we go through and say, what do we think? And put it like a little implementation plan or action plan. Is that clear? What do you guys think?
Yeah, thanks, Steph. That was a good explanation of it.
And just one thing to add, the outcome is not to revise or to edit the document that we received from our consultants. That's done. Our outcome is the implementation. Well, actually, our outcome is recommendations to council. That's what we've been asked to provide, and it's essentially an implementation strategy.
But do I understand correctly that what we want out of these 4 steps is that the plan comes to fruition and starts being activated?
Yeah.
Once we've done step 4, yeah.
Yeah, and so the way in is how to bring a link between the plan, the 68 pages, and the people that want to execute, and so make sure that we do the right things first.
Yeah.
Is that the
That's why the sector sections.
Yeah.
And the way the sector sessions that we would do as part of this are different from the sessions that our consultants conducted. But pretty well anyone could attend those. They signed up. We want to be a little bit more intentional in what we're doing and making sure that for the sector session we have the 6 people, 8 people in the room that we really need to hear from. So that there's an element of being a bit more selective this time around, while making sure that we're as inclusive as we need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if the sector people don't buy in, the plan isn't going to get delivered or implemented. Because they're very involved, have to be involved in the implementation.
So what I hear also from your end, Stef, the first step, the better the food, the more engaged the sector people will be. And then, so metaphorically, but so that first step is really important, that they feel, okay, we are engaged, we can take our thing on, and we are supported in taking our responsibility for our sector. So that's what I read there. Yeah. I think also the advantage of the plan is that we have a whole list of possibilities. The kind of shadow side of the plan, it doesn't really make choices. So if we can make choices in that first 1 step for now, for only this upcoming even half a year, we are much more further away. And then the plan is coming to life, then keeping it in the open. Is that the right understanding from the whole thing?
Yeah, and I was thinking just that the people would lead their section in this initial discussion, and then you've raised it to take full responsibility for their section. So that's exciting. You can be a volunteer. Pardon?
Maybe you better put the list up now.
Oh yeah. So then there's this list, and please, I just throwing spaghetti at the wall. Some things are obvious, Kirsten. Others less obvious, Lieven.
Can I just go back? Hang on 1 second. I'm just not that clear on the sector sessions. So, was that where we were anticipating hiring someone like Heather Pretty, or I think there was a few names, Maureen, you had recommended to be able to be part of those sessions so that you could come out with a very succinct 1-pager?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So they'll yeah. So there are some people.
But we need somebody from the sector to sort of.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that was part of our budget, right? That would include paying these other people who are skilled in being able to record and produce a 1-pager from these meetings.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right.
So this is the list that I came up, we came up with. And we have Councillor Morse as the overview.
I end up at the top instead of down at the bottom.
You're way at the top. Context and legislative constraints. So land use bylaw, historical documents, etc. Jamie for arts and culture. Rod for industry. Kirsten for digital economy. Training and education. I have Marcus and Lieven. So if you've got your eye on something else, I'm not sure. Tourism, Jody and Sat. Food and agriculture, Vaune. Health and wellness, Ed. Oh, we haven't talked about that yet.
Maybe we better give Sat the health and wellness one.
That you better speak up because
I know, right? Here I'm getting
taking
signed
half
up
of
for
the
things.
stuff.
Thanks.
We have Housing Maureen. She's our council member of the Housing Advisory Committee and also Mayor Standing Committee on Community Lands. And Kylie for Environmental Stewardship. Ed's resigned. He's in a very amicably has making different priorities for his health and life right now. So we're very sad to see him go, but so he won't be leading this health and wellness section.
Some of these will sort of cross-pollinate as well.
Yeah.
You know, you may find some partnerships coming out of these different sectors, just to keep that in mind as well.
But these are sort of the areas that were in the plan to sort of go forward. So,
You know, and I still struggle with the with restaurants not being food. Restaurants are tourism, and they're not food. The food is agriculture. I think there's some crossover there. That's
yeah.
Well,
I don't know, even worse.
Yeah, my experience is, I think the simplicity will be to find these 3-4 actions that deal with as many topics at the same time as possible. So if we don't take care, we just see it like, no, the list from A to or B to I, but that's dangerous, because I think really we can find initiatives that deal with 4 at the same time and leverage it. And if you could find these ones in the workshop, that's leveraged for, like what you just said, the restaurants can leverage agriculture, environmental stewardship, tourism at the same time. So a restaurant could do many things at the same time, depending on the way they deal with it. So if we could design the workshop in such a way that what we call multi-value projects, that they are all bringing these projects together and make it very simple, that would be the real goal. And then
that's workshop 1, I think, Lee, and I think that's part of what we were thinking, is trying to wheel it down to, you know, what might we want to do and what areas do we want to bring forward to these sectors to see if they'll buy in to help with the implementation.
Great. And what I love in what you say, Alison, if we can then find, even in 2 ways, if we have half a day, and in the second half, we can really, what are these actions that we collectively can take up from these 4 or 8 disciplines? If we combine forces in these 2 or 3 projects, what do that mean for all of us? Then you can really fly. But as long as we divide it in all of these different things, you have problems with the restaurants, you have problems with the construction workers, so finding these sweet spots, that's going to be if we can find that, but then you have to invite the right people there. That's going to ignite a lot of power. And I think the end result is not the 1-pagers, but the end result is finding people that knock on our door and say, we want to make this accomplished. And if we can do that, that's the real thing. And I think we have all of the ingredients to the table. The document is strong enough for that, but we need to create the right relationship at that moment. And I'm all, if you want my support there, I'm all in help there and support of volunteering. But that's really what I sense that we are waiting for as an island also, after these crappy 2 years of COVID also, to find these 3 projects that we're going to grasp our hands around. And they must be possible. We must find them. That half a day, we must find these 3-4 projects that leverage everybody.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that will come out of the workshop number 1.
Right,
Yeah.
because we will have to talk about some kind of you know, template structure or whatever, because everybody can be, we don't want every 8 of these sessions being held in very different ways, coming out with you know, different results basically, or you know what I mean? Like we'll need some sort of like guidance on how to conduct those sessions.
And that's part of the workshop number 1. So
Yeah.
we're sort of getting into the weeds of details of what we're
So
going
I
to.
wonder if we can talk about any kind of dates for workshop number 1, or actually I'd like to get a sense of comfort levels, I think.
Yeah.
The main thing. How do people feel about trying to put together something if we could do it outdoors with heat lamps, or I don't know, or would you rather wait until the things have opened up, or what is the feeling?
Well, the other is, do we want to do a morning on a weekend? I mean, that's the other.
Oh yeah, and I feel like how do people feel about weekends? Who wants to go first? Kirsten?
I would love to hear the rest of your sentence, Stef. What did you want to say?
how you feel about weekends.
Okay, yeah.
Do you
Just,
know-
I don't know about getting 3.5, 4 hours out of people during a weekday.
Yeah,
Marnie?
I like the idea of a weekend. I like the idea of it being a brunch on a weekend where, you know,
Okay.
it's weekend, but we can still sleep in a little bit and be together with to see each other, be in the same room. And I know I like weekends because you don't feel rushed, or you may not feel pulled away with other work things that do pop up during that time if we're going to have a chunk of time. So that would be my preference.
Do you feel like with mask on, we could do feel comfortable in interior space
Well,
or?
Do you know, it's funny because I think we're expecting some new regulations to come out February 16th, 15th,
Okay.
16th to be effective. So maybe we just want to wait until that, you know, wait another week and then see what that looks like.
Okay,
So
thank you.
could we ask Stef to maybe see like what Kate's Hill Chapel might be available on a Saturday, because it's a pretty big room. And doors could be opened and fans on and
Talked about the downstairs of docks being a nice big room where the food
oh, that's a
already
good one too.
exists,
Yeah, I forgot about that.
instead of having to go get it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
thanks.
good, I think, right? Because they can just serve it there
Food
and
is
it's,
there. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So we've got, wait for the new regulations, like, okay with weekend brunch, a little bit of a sleep in, be a 10 o'clock start dish is one. Jody, what's your feeling?
I'm not so keen on 3 or 4 hours on a weekend, but if it's the idea is to share food, what if it were like dinner time? We start at 5 and kind of work through dinner, 5 to 8, something like that.
I wouldn't want to do that on a weekend.
No, I don't. That's why I'm trying to stay off.
How about a weekday?
Yeah, sorry, weekday.
I think we don't have to. What I would like to invite us to is who do we want to invite?
This
No,
is
it
just
was
us.
just
This
for
is the
workshop
first.
number 1, Cleveland, which is just the committee.
Okay, that's easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then we start at 10 o'clock with a notion dip with all of us to rest the student the upcoming week, and then we're so refreshed and antivirus that we can meet everywhere.
We'll all stand there and watch you dip in, even.
So-
on a daily basis. So, okay, thank you for that. I was already ahead of thinking, but that it would have been the whole group.
So staff, maybe we need to just quickly send out a little vote and say, do you want to do it on a weeknight starting at 5, go through till 8 or 8:30, or do it on a Saturday, starting around 9 or 10 and going till, 10 to 1 or something like that. And
But we
just get a-
already know that we're going to lose Rod and Kirsten and Jamie and
Can we hear from Rod and Zach and see what they feel like?
For me personally, as long as it's around office hours, it's just easier for me. It's sometimes I think I know I'm not alone in terms of predicting what your workday looks like. So to sometimes, pencil out 3 hours on a Tuesday, it can be really challenging. But if it's, a weekday, but in the evening or on the weekend, that's an easy time to commit to.
Yeah,
I have more control over my life during those hours.
5 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday. Yeah.
Well, is there something like later in the week or earlier in the week that would be less stressful? Like Thursday before a professional day?
Yeah, fair enough. Fair
Something
enough.
like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Rod and Sat, do you have any feelings?
I'm easy with either or. I actually, if I sit with a bit more, I think a weekday evening probably would work better for me than a weekday. But like everyone else, it probably depends on which one we're talking. But yeah, I think if I were to pick one, I would say weekday evening
rather than a weekend set.
rather than a weekend. Yeah,
Mhm.
if I had to pick.
Okay. Rod?
Yeah, I'm with Sad on that. Later in the week, like a Thursday or a Wednesday, maybe. later in the day is
Okay.
is probably best for me. Like, what kind of time frame are we envisioning here? Like in a month or two, or in a week or two, or?
We kind of wanted to do it in January.
Well,
Right.
now we've got to wait for the new guidelines. So I'm thinking
Yeah.
it would be the very near the end of February or early March.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking because upcoming we have Family Day weekend, the weekend after next, and then so there's maybe the weekend after that or the week after that.
Okay, sounds good.
So the Thursday of that week it might work or something.
Yeah.
I have study break coming up the week of February the 21st. So that's actually a good week for me to do anything.
Okay.
I didn't bring my phone in, so I can't look at my calendar.
And Jamie, you're okay with?
Last Thursday of February at 5 o'clock at the docks. Is that a good proposal?
What day are
Okay,
you
let's
talking
do.
about, Lisa?
I like your style even.
Thursday, I hear 5 o'clock and I hear February. So I just combine these things and then I just look at the last the last Thursday of February.
February 24th
Could be.
is the last Thursday in February.
Yeah, maybe like 5 to 8. Would that work?
Can we just start a little bit earlier than 5? I find that, we'll probably have a meal and then everyone gets a bit sleepy and we've all had a busy day. Starting at 5 is just a little late for me, but I'll go with whatever the crowd says. But I know that once you eat, everyone gets a bit.
Well, you don't eat right away. We could
Wilson has a strategy to withhold food from you until you produce.
I just know that after you eat it, your productivity goes down.
Yeah.
Sometimes it goes up because you've got energy.
Start somewhere around 3, have food around 5:30, and then go through after that. It's better for me too. Yeah. And I then mean during my presence and being really of some value for you, it's better to do that earlier than later. Yeah.
Me too.
So you're saying 4:30?
Yeah.
Even 4.
4.
Well, we've
Kirsten
got
can't get
Kirsten.
here though.
Sorry?
I don't think Kirsten could have her physical person on site. We're not on Zoom now, so.
Do you know, I think, so we're looking at 4 o'clock on the Thursday, the 24th.
Or the.
Do you know what I could do is maybe I could rearrange things where, like I just quickly looked at my calendar and I do know that my meetings that afternoon are virtual. So I think that's a possibility for me.
Well, thank you. Okay, well, that's some progress.
Oh, good.
I'll talk to docs and pandemic be damned.
Does that mean I can leave and go and have my dinner now?
I want to get back to this list. I did run into Kylie, who is having some having to work a lot and possibly not be able to volunteer much during this period. So I'm wondering if we want to put another name beside environmental stewardship.
So at this point, you had everybody on the list, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Levin, would you like to take that on as well as being an overarching facilitator?
Yep. Yeah.
And that's something I think with, our Maureen's on the Climate Action Committee and Council, and, I'm on the water committees and stuff like that. So, we can help out, I think, with that part of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And in this first workshop on the Thursday, the 24th, that's when we'll narrow down what's happening in the sector sessions and moving forward.
And so everybody should be looking at their section of the report and coming with ideas of already their own ideas around it. And then we'll but we will have a discussion about
What's feasible, what isn't feasible, what works with other things, and
If we can get Liam to join us, I think that would be helpful.
We can bribe them with food.
The
We
problem
don't
with
have Marcus
evenings,
here, right?
Sorry?
Somebody said the problem with evenings. Who was that?
well, I said that.
Oh,
It's nice to have wine with dinner.
Okay. I don't see Marcus here though. So what did we have him down there for?
Training and workshops.
Okay. So can you follow up with him, Steph?
I
or-
will, yeah.
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. Okay. So then
So can I actually, I think I have a little proposed recommendation, a resolution there, an internal resolution for us, just to say that the plan that I had on the screen, that we all agree that's the plan moving forward. Can we do a quick vote on that?
all right, I'll move that.
all in
One, two.
favor? All opposed? Nobody. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go and
Okay.
duck out and see how my assistant is doing with getting my dinner organized.
Do you want to look back at the budget then?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we were pretty much in agreement on the budget, except we just wanted to make sure we covered the ground of the workshop implementation next steps piece. Now that that has occurred, I'll share screen again. So that's this piece here, which is the sector sessions and our workshop.
So that's
That's-
$5,000.
Mhm. For food and a writer to support.
Did we base that 45.75 on any like actual real figures? Like how did we?
We
figure
did. There was a
we-
scratch pad we had.
Okay.
I have a
Alright.
question. Does this include someone note-taking or keeping track or putting things together?
That's Heather Pretty, isn't it, Steph?
We haven't asked anybody yet, but that type
Okay,
of
so
thing
that's
is
included
included.
and there'll be a fee for that, obviously, for someone
Yeah.
to facilitate.
Yeah, that was the
Um,
idea, that we would have these one pagers come out of the sector sessions and that there'd be somebody being paid to
But
actually
I think
produce that.
Levin's got new ideas about the one pagers, but that can be fleshed out, I guess, in our workshop.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think it's
Um,
important that we feel free to just talk and not have to keep notes, that someone
Yeah.
will be facilitating.
Yeah.
We've got Steph to take notes too.
I don't know if that's really fair.
I think we're
Um,
gonna maybe have someone else just in case. I've got some stuff coming up. Got like a bunch of wisdom teeth that need to come out. So
Mm.
we want this to proceed.
You're
Well, I
gonna
think
be
it, and it
wisdom-
needs to be someone who facilitates, someone who sort of guides a little bit so it doesn't go off the rails.
Heather's, if we were bringing Heather on board, her role would be record keeping. It would not be facilitation. So
Okay.
if we actually,
Okay.
if we actually need a note taker and a facilitator, we should get clear on that.
Well, and
I
one of
think we
us
have-
can't be a facilitator?
So we have Levin to facilitate the first workshop of.
Yeah,
the-
and we're
our
not
whole
gonna have
group.
Heather there to take notes for that one, are we?
I don't think so.
No.
And then for the sector sessions, I don't know what level of expertise is required for those smaller group discussions.
Well, can we sort of figure that out in our next 3-hour session?
I think if
I-
the outcome could be of our session that we develop a template together, where
Yeah,
there's the minimal things that people need to fill out from every sector session that will suffice, and then a good briefing to all of the sector heads. That's going to help a lot. So if we can do that collectively, and I'm gonna, whenever I can help, I'm gonna do that. So that's no problem whatsoever. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's just leave the budget for now, if you're okay with that, because I think we have one, and I think we can just work with that.
So I move that we submit the budget as presented to council. To the Community Economic Development Committee recommend the council direct staff to include the 2022 CED budget request of 15,000 in the annual budgeting process.
Okay, all in favor? Oh, no, we need a seconder for that? Or do we need a seconder for that?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Maureen. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, carried.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Steph. Yeah, going up through.
Oh. We're having elections. I didn't even see that.
It's annual in everybody's terms of reference, an annual election for chair and vice chair.
Sorry, I didn't even see that until just now.
We emailed about it. Oh, well, okay.
Okay, so what do you do, Steph? We just ask who
So
wants to...
if somebody wants to put their own name forward to be chair, or if somebody would like to nominate someone else to be chair, that's a pretty quick and efficient way of getting out of duty, is to nominate someone else.
I hadn't thought, oh dear, I better put my hands down.
We try to have the volunteers be in that role rather than
No,
council.
I know, I just went like this. No, put
Right,
your hand
this-
down.
Yeah, don't scratch your head now.
Well, my thought would be that if Vaune was willing, that she would continue on as chair.
Rod has nominated Vaune. Jamie's clapping.
I would love that stability too, Rod. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how stable I am right now.
We'll help you on that one.
Okay.
I'm going to call that a move then. Rod moving. Who's seconding?
Had a whole bunch of hands stuck up there.
Jamie seconded with her clapping.
Okay, is there anybody else who would like to have that role?
What's role for?
The chair.
Chair of this committee.
I think you also have to be explicit that you want it.
Do you accept the nomination?
Accept the nomination. I accept the nomination.
All in favor? Sorry, I'll run this vote, Vaune, because you're the
Yeah.
you're the target. All in favor? Okay, Vaune, yay.
Yay.
This is always really fun. And then for vice chair, I just saw your email now, Rod.
My email?
Yeah.
Sorry, did I send an email? Maybe now I'm confused.
What does the email say?
Did you send me an email?
No, I don't think I intentionally did.
Okay.
Maybe is it from this year? What is it with regards to elections? No, I didn't send anything.
Oh dear, are we on video?
Yes, we are.
Okay, let's get this ball rolling. Who would, are there any nominations for vice chair?
Well, I'd like to nominate Rod, if he's willing to accept. He is our current vice chair, you know? Yes. Rod?
Well, I'll make a comment first, but I think that ideally, with regards to vice chair, it would be good if it was someone who was potentially even not making a explicit interest, but that they might be interested in staying with the committee and chairing the committee in the future. And since I've already done that, I would certainly defer to someone else. But also, just from my personal perspective, I'm not sure that my availability and time would lend myself to that role in the best way. Not that I'm saying no unilaterally, but I think if there was someone else who was more fit to that kind of parameter, that would be a better choice.
Thanks, Rod.
So Rod, are you willing to stay on the committee and perhaps still be the liaison with REEF?
Yeah, I think that being a liaison with REAP is a really a part that I can do and that is needed to do, and certainly would welcome anyone else who's interested in that to join me in it. So yes, in that respect.
Okay. So how do we do this?
Who would like to be vice chair?
Leave-in?
Start. Yeah.
That?
I can be explicit on that. I feel like I've been such a miserable committee member so far in being present and not present and feeling and being in tune that I'm not ready for that yet, because it's not what I used to. And it's also due to the whole personal challenges I went through and all of these things from the last year. So if I could be a better member already for the next year, then I might be ready, but I'm not ready for that yet. So, and it's definitely, if I step into something, I can be a powerhouse, but I have not been that yet at all. So, and that's like, I desperately screwed this year, but so that's why I say not this year, but I really want to see how I can be much more effective this upcoming year. So, and I hear your invitation, Vaune, but I also feel like, let's first prove my count before really stepping in. So, yeah, so I feel like I want to humble myself first. Yeah.
So it's
And prove
Kirsten
a
and
little more.
Sat. You two have to fight over it now.
I feel a very similar situation to Leave-In, to be honest. But I'm not just trying to cop out and say that. I'm learning the ropes, if you will, and just kind of getting used to things, and would like to contribute just as a regular member for now.
Kirsten. Welcome.
Sorry, Kirsten, I
Should have
jumped
spoken
in.
earlier. That's what happens when you leave it to the last.
You know,
It's not really much.
No, it
you're
isn't.
Okay.
Although in the context of would you consider possibly chairing the committee in the future, doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah. Do you know, I've just, listen, if we're desperate, I'll step into the position. I will do that for sure. It's funny, last year I just found I was overstretched and I've stepped down from other committees in order to free up some time, which is now kind of then defeating everything that I was trying to do in terms of free up time. But really, if there's nobody else who wants to take the position, I'll step into it. But if there's somebody who'd like to take it, please go ahead.
Kirsten, may I say something? Is it possible to, and I don't, apologies if this overcomplicates things, but is it possible to have two vice chairs, and Kirsten and I can
share the burden,
support each other if we feel like we need to?
Well, can we just be clear, Stef, on what the role of the vice chair is?
The vice chair doesn't have to do a lot. Often the chair will ask the vice chair to be the one who signs off on minutes.
But that doesn't have to happen. And the vice chair chairs a meeting if the chair isn't available or something like that.
Yeah. So essentially you chair meetings if the chair is not available. You review the minutes of the meeting to see if you have, if there's anything that you wish to question or add or change or that kind of thing. And that's it's not
a lot. Yeah. But then there's just a feeling, you're consulted on things, you're CC on things, you're part of the big decisions.
Yeah.
And it's mostly showing up, consistently being at the committee meetings and being aware of what's going on and being engaged.
Okay, I'm going to put both your names down.
Can't have two vice chairs. And the bylaws say one chair and a vice chair. So.
See, she's going to be doing legislation in context for the next.
Can't share.
I'd like to nominate Kirsten.
I'll second that nomination.
Will you accept the nomination, Kirsten?
Okay, Vaune, you're stuck with me.
Okay. Yay! All in favor.
You decide halfway through, you can.
I love the double role. I love the double role of Seth and Kirsten together too, because it might give us the flexibility we need. But it's just a suggestion. So, but Kirsten also in favor, absolutely.
Well, thank you, everyone.
And thanks for your offer of compromise, Sat. Shut down. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Now, do we obviously don't have any update from the province? Nope. And council, is there any update from council?
We spent a good part of today in our strategic planning session for this year. And the piece that's relevant for this committee is that we are on the list to complete the implementation plan.
Right.
I'm gonna let you
But
guys.
Maureen, what does that mean? Sorry, on the list to,
In terms of municipal council priorities, so in the island plan, it will note that we're continuing work on the CEDC project.
oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen.
Allison, do you have anything to add?
She's gone.
Oh, she's gone. Okay. Do we have a staff update?
I have a staff update. We've hired a CFO. Very exciting. Yeah, so and who previously worked for the municipality and then went to the North Van School District and worked there for 4.5 years and gained more expertise and experience in capital projects and big budgets and has come back. Her name's Kristen Watson. She'll start in 11 days.
Okay, and then are we going to have her as part of the committee or invite her in?
I don't see her being as enthusiastic about that as Sheila had been.
Okay.
And she's got a lot to be faced with, so
Okay.
going to assume
We'll let,
no
yeah,
for now.
I'm sure she'll have
Yeah.
lots on her plate for a while. Okay. But that's good news.
That's
Okay,
all.
Jody, do you have any updates you want to share? Tourism?
Tourism Bowen Island got a grant, a support local grant from the BC Chamber of Commerce, the money coming from the federal government Ministry of Initiatives or something. I don't have the correct name in front of me. So we're currently doing quite a few things. I hope people have heard about the Bowen is Awesome contest. So that is to support, it's supposed to be a positive campaign, getting locals to think, supporting local first. And the positive part is that people can do social posts or emails about businesses or products or employees that they appreciate. And if they use the hashtag Bowen is Awesome, they're entering the contest and there will be a draw on February 14th. We're also producing a little booklet and yeah, so it's just been a really bit of a tight timeline grant. We got announced December 16th that we got the funds. So it's just, it has to be done in about a week or so. So it's just crazy short timing and COVID and all sorts of stuff. So it hasn't been particularly fun, but we'll get through it.
It looks fun. I've seen it on everything, Facebook. Yeah. Is Basha on your board?
She is a board member. Yep.
Okay, because I see a lot of postings from her.
Yeah, and she's helping particularly with the contest and the booklet and stuff like that. So, like I said, it's been a really short timeline. So, but yeah, we're very grateful to get the money and yeah, just have some fun and spread it around. And
it's great. Another buy local.
Yeah,
I think it's great. Really like it. Anything else
for
you
me
want to share? Yeah.
Not at the moment. The sun's coming out. People are definitely coming back, and yeah, we will see. As Kirsten was saying, we'll see what the restrictions are and how things unfold. I'm curious to see how that goes, and yeah.
Okay. And Jamie, do you have a update from the Hearth?
I do. So 2021 was a fantastic year all across the board. Our finances are very strong. The increase of visitors to the gallery was way up. comments from the community and visitors. What we're doing at the Hearth is well appreciated and becoming quite a cultural corner. Having a lot of visitors come by the gallery. So we had a great 2021. We've got a big year planned for 2022. Part of that includes the choosing of the contractor to build the cultural corner project. We should be starting that, gosh, probably in a couple of weeks. So you'll start to see some activity happening around the Hearth. Once those two programming buildings are done, you'll start to see some activity on those stages, as we call them. So live music, poetry reading, artist demonstrations, all kinds of things happening out at the corner. So that's really exciting. I'm super excited about that. We have some great new board members. We've got 5 new board members. 4 of them are involved in the performing arts sector. So they are very interested in what we're doing. They're also very interested in what's happening at the cultural or the community center. So that's very exciting. Lots of new energy on the board. So it's great. It's really awesome. And we're right in the middle of our major fundraiser for the year, the Mini Artworks show. I've seen a couple of you already come by and put your bids up on the wall. Maureen, thank you. Yeah, it's going to be a great fundraiser. We've got over 83 pieces in the show, a great cross-section of community artists that have participated, a variety of mediums of art, not just paint. So yeah, it's great. It's good. We're excited. We've opened the doors for our new year, and everything's coming together. And I just had a holiday, so I'm feeling very refreshed. But just give me a couple of weeks and then I'll be like, oh my God, I'm so tired. Anyway. So
Excellent.
Come by the Hearth. Come say hi.
Okay. Thank you, Jamie. Okay, I think the only thing we have left on our agenda here is to talk about when the next meeting should be. Nope.
That workshop, we have the workshop already scheduled, so.
Yeah. So we don't want to talk about
actual meetings
after that. Why don't we just go through the workshop, and then maybe out of that we'll decide what more we need to do. And actually it's going to be a lot of, there'll be a lot of meetings with the sector meetings and that kind of thing going on. So I'm kind of wondering how that's going to work. Let's just leave it, and we get a little bit further along and we'll decide what we need as a committee, when we feel like we need to meet and why.
or if council refers something.
Right. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you. Well, that was good.
Don't forget about the launch of the Gateway Project. That's coming up on the 21st of February. So everyone come and be part of that. That's just going to be amazing, colorful, cheerful. It'll start off our spring in the best way.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
There will be.
Thank you.
I think we'll call this meeting adjourned.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Nice to hear and see you all.
Good night.